is what about marriage counseling? You know, it's the big thing in churches where people say, what about like if I'm going to get married, do I need to book an appointment with Victor and go through 6-7 weeks of marriage counseling and fill out these things? Well, no, we don't have formal marriage counseling, but my thoughts on marriage counseling is, it's not compulsory, but it is a good idea, right? It's a good idea to get some counsel. And, we think of counseling like you're sitting on a chair, laid back, and people probing you with questions. No, counseling is just advice, isn't it? It's a good idea to get advice. If you're going to get married to somebody, you can ask people for advice. It's a good idea. Because emotions hinder good judgment, don't they? So when you're emotionally attached to this person, you're probably not in the best situation to make an unbiased judgment. So it's good to ask, what do people think? And you don't need to just ask me. You can ask anybody in this church. You're looking at this girl, what do you think? Do you think it's a good idea? Do you see any red flags? It doesn't need to be a formal course. It doesn't need to be, you see me every week for 6 weeks and here's some worksheets that you need to work through. And it's just, you need to work through them just to do them. It's, really when it comes to spirituality, the ball's in your court. These are things that you need to do because you can sit through that course, but if you're just doing it just to get married, are you going to get the benefit out of it that it's designed to have? So that's why it's about changing your perspective. It's not just checking these tick boxes and saying, I've done all this, therefore it's done. It's about doing what's best for God, doing what's best for you, for your spouse, and doing what's best for you. So it's not compulsory, it's a good idea. But I will say this, marriage counseling, it should be something that you really get before you're involved with somebody, right? Like you're not with somebody and dating them for years and years and years and years, and then it's like, okay, now I'm going to get marriage counseling because we're thinking about getting married. Because when you get that advice and it's like, hey brother, it's not a good idea because she's not even saved, are you going to heed the advice? Probably people in that situation are usually, no, like maybe God has put me in their life to get them saved, and they start justifying and, when it's wrong. But, when you've been involved for so long, are you going to listen to the advice when it's given to you? That's why marriage counseling is something that you ought to do before. And this is why when I started this series, people are like, well, I'm married. Why are you preaching on dating on Sunday morning? Because, you may have to give this advice to somebody else. So when somebody comes to you and says, what should I do? Is this a good idea? You ought to know so that you can tell them before they're too emotionally involved. Because maybe by the time they come to me, they've already been dating for 2 or 3 years and they're going to listen to me. We need to catch it. We need to nip it in the bud. So that's my thoughts on marriage counseling. I think it's a good idea to get advice, definitely. Whether it needs to be formal or not, I don't necessarily think so. And you can talk to really anyone in church here. Anyone here I think will give you good advice as long as it comes from the Bible. And it really should be something that you do before you even really get too physically or emotionally attached